This is RBN, the Republic Broadcasting Network.
What Really Happened with your host, Mike Rivero. You're listening to the Republic Broadcasting Network, where you'll find out what the Fukushima's going on.
Aloha, America. Welcome to our show today. It is Monday, July 27th, 2020, start of a brand new week, start of a brand new month on Saturday. Will be August 1st here. My goodness, the summer's almost over, but you'd never know it looking at the weather. Tropical storm Hannah really caused a lot of flooding down in Texas, and apparently it actually knocked down part of the so-called indestructible border wall that Trump had put up there. So that's now lying on the ground, much to the delight of the illegal immigrants here. And apparently on video, they've got a section of the border wall separating the U.S. and Mexico collapsing under strong winds and heavy rains from Tropical Storm Hannah. Out in Hawaii, they dodged a bullet. It looked like Hurricane Douglas was just primed to have the eye of the storm go right up the middle of the islands. At the last second, it veered slightly north, so they got some flooding and they got some high winds, but the worst of it was out over the ocean. And I've been communicating with people that we still know in Hawaii, and they're saying, yeah, they came through okay, all things considered here. All right, I want to talk about all these protests that are going on, because Blair and I kind of turned off the TV over the weekend because we were a little bit on burnout. We had other things we needed to do. So we come on in Monday morning, we turn everything, and 69 people in Chicago got shot, and they're using explosives in Seattle and Portland. I'm not talking about the cops, I'm talking about the protesters. And it just seems like this thing is building and building and building, and anybody who thinks it's going to be all over in November, they're dreaming. You know, this is the start of a mass movement, and who knows where it's going to go. Maybe we're on the verge of a real revolution in this country. Kind of a scary thought here. Anyway, apparently in Austin, a Black Lives Matter protester was shot dead. And Trump vents on Twitter again after deploying federal agents to quell the violence. Righty, let's see. Footage showed people marching along the street holding banners demanding an end to police brutality and racism. Now they're talking about, never mind defund the police, they want to shut down the prisons. Nobody should be locked up, or at least no black people should be locked up. One person is injured, 2 were arrested after a shooting at a protest in downtown Portland, as demonstrations against police brutality continue for a 60th night in a row in cities across the U.S. 60, my goodness. It's 2 months now that's been going on. And the local government there in Portland can't get a handle on it, and yet they don't want the feds to come on in. What do they want to have happen? Do they like the riots? They really think it's going to win them the election in November? I don't think so, because if you look at the cities where all these riots are happening, they're all under Democratic control. Anyway, also in Portland, federal agents wearing gas masks arrested 2 female Black Lives Matter protesters and discovered they had a bag filled with loaded rifle magazines and Molotov cocktails. Now, a lot of people who have been supportive of the protests are starting to change their tune here. Apparently, there was a radio host who said the Seattle protests were peaceful, and then his apartment got burned down by the protesters. Yeah, that's going to change your attitude. Man can't have something like that happen, remain entirely cheerful. Another Seattle radio host who mocked Trump's reaction to protests now says he needs a gun. Paul Gallant has a new perspective on violent protests. All it took was for the Starbucks below his apartment to be trashed. Now he wants a gun. He wants to be able to protect himself. What's that old saying that a conservative is a liberal who got mugged? Now, Portland's riots are driving Portland's small businesses under. Mainstream media is not paying attention to this. And after 60 nights of violence, business owners in Portland are sick and tired of it all. But as their stores go under, the coastal media treats the rioters to glowing coverage, and city authorities do nothing. Our priorities are definitely messed up here. Definitely messed up. Portland is, of course, a liberal stronghold, and as Black Lives Matter protests fizzle out around the country, anger remains at the boiling point in the Oregonian city. The protests there have not been all banner waving and slogan chanting affairs. Instead, droves of Antifa types have laid siege to the city's Justice Center for almost 2 months, tearing down barricades, lobbing fireworks, setting fires, and stabbing each other, which seems counterproductive. And I don't think they grasp what the public response is going to be to all of this. You know, they're out there making noise. We're going to make noise until you give us what we want. But what is the image that is being projected out there? What kind of an impression are people getting of Black Lives Matter and Antifa? Remember, if you're going to affect socio-political change, you need the support of the ordinary population, and you don't get it by behaving like this. All right. Apparently, federal agents pepper sprayed a Vietnam War veteran in the face at point blank range. That's not going to make the federal agents look good. Let's be honest about it. Nobody's going to look good coming out of this. This makes everybody look bad. It makes Portland look bad. It makes Oregon look bad. It makes the United States look bad. It makes the American people look bad to the rest of the world. Now, the ACLU has filed a lawsuit against the Trump administration over what they describe as unconscionable attacks on Portland medics. The ACLU of Oregon on Wednesday sued the Trump administration for assaulting, tear gassing, and arresting volunteer medics in Portland during its crackdown on the city's ongoing process. The lawsuit, which also names the city of Portland, was filed on behalf of Savannah Guest, Christopher Wise, Christopher Durkee, and Michael Martinez, 4 volunteer medics who say they were assaulted by the Trump administration's federal agents and Portland police during Black Lives demonstrations. It was terrifying, said Guest, who on July 12th was thrown to the ground by federal agents dressed in combat fatigues as she attempted to assist an incapacitated bystander. Every human being deserves help, but the federal agents showed no humanity or concern. My first question would be that if these volunteer medics had some kind of a jacket that said medic or just had a red cross on them. Because I think even the federal agents, if they saw, jacket with a red cross on it and somebody's hovering over somebody who's lying on the ground, they're going to say, okay, it's a medic or a corpsman or whatever they call them these days. So that's really the open question here. Did these federal agents know these were volunteer medics at the time they assaulted them, or did they think they were just more of the same protesters? But what's going on is we're seeing our major cities being turned into war zones. And we're seeing the local governments either unwilling or unable to do anything about it. And if Joe Biden and the Democratic Party actually believe they're going to be able to control these protesters if they win in November, they're delusional. This thing is taking on a life of its own. It's got a huge inertia built up. And I don't think it's going to help Joe Biden one tiny bit. Not one tiny bit. Now, Daniel Kovalik, who teaches international human rights at the University of Pittsburgh School of Law in the state of Pennsylvania, made some remarks to the effect that the United Nations should send peacekeepers to the United States to stop its criminal conduct against its own people. Well, that sounds kind of okay. Is that the agenda, to justify UN troops on the streets of the United States of America? Is that why all this violence is being fanned up? We've been looking for a reason, and this may be it. Now, normally when the United Nations sends in peacekeepers, 90% of them tend to be the American forces. So where are they going to get peacekeepers now to come into the United States of America? All right. Major League Baseball has canceled the Marlins home opener due to coronavirus outbreak. 14 players and their coaches test positive. Maybe. We know these tests have a high rate of false positives. Major League Baseball has canceled games in Miami and Philadelphia after at least 14 Marlins players tested positive for coronavirus. A mess out there. Now, Walmart, Home Depot have walked back their hardline mask requirements after the backlash. They'd come on out and said, if you're not wearing a mask, you'll not be allowed in the store. We will not serve you. We will not take your money. We will not sell you anything. Well, there was a huge backlash from people who are just sick and tired of this mask nonsense, especially because it's becoming more and more widely known these masks aren't really effective against viruses. they're they're effective against large size dust particles and some larger bacteria, but viruses, no, doesn't work. Here in Indiana, Governor Holcomb had mandated masks be worn in public places effective starting today, with jail sentences and tickets and fines and everything. But the Indiana police departments are saying they're not going to enforce it. Now, Holcomb introduced the mask requirement last Wednesday, saying violations would be punished as a Class B misdemeanor. But after internal pressure from party members, Holcomb signed an executive order that would leave it up to state and local health departments to enforce the order instead. Violators of the rule will not face fines or jail time, and state and local police departments saying they're not going to enforce the order, which took effect today. And as a matter of fact, Claire and I were out earlier today running our morning errands, and we noticed a lot of people weren't wearing the masks. We had ours because we didn't want a ticket. Now we're finding out there won't be a ticket even if we don't wear the mask, which is good because I have trouble breathing through that darn thing. Anyway, Fishers Police Department Sergeant Tom Weger said, "We are referring everybody that has a question about the mask mandate to the Fishers Health Department. Some police departments are taking to social media to let community members know they do not plan to issue fines or citations for not wearing a mask." Google has announced they're going to keep its 200,000 employees working from home until at least July of next year amid the coronavirus pandemic. So Google will keep its employees home due to the ongoing coronavirus pandemic. This is coming from the Wall Street Journal. Now, as you know, there's a big stink over whether schools should open in the fall or not. Some colleges are going virtual only. Some schools are going virtual only. The problem with that is studies are showing that learning online virtually is not as effective as having a teacher right there with you. But for those colleges and universities that are going to be opening up their campuses, they're planning these really strict COVID-19 measures. And Cornell University in New York, Baylor and Waco, all students, faculty, and staff will be required to test negative before being admitted on campus. That makes sense. Here's where it gets a little bit extreme. Over in Colby College in Maine, students will be nasal swabbed twice a week, at least throughout the fall semester or fall quarter. So North Korea has locked down their border area after finally acknowledging a vicious COVID-19 outbreak. For the longest time, they were saying, we don't have any. Then last week, they said, we've got one. Now they're admitting that, yeah, there's an emergency lockdown in an area near the DMZ after a person suspected of being infected with the virus returned to the north after illegally crossing into South Korea. So turning to our domestic news here. Former NSA cryptographer and whistleblower Bill Binney came on out with an online press conference on the 23rd and said that he and a team of other former intelligence and security personnel looked into the files posted by WikiLeaks that came from the DNC mail server. And they looked at the allegation that Russians hacked the DNC and passed it to WikiLeaks. And they presented some technical information to say, no, that didn't happen. Now, Binney pointed out all these files, all 35,813, had a last modified time, was rounded off to an even second. And he described how there's a common program which can do what is known as file allocation formatting, and that when doing a batch process of data and transferring it to a storage device like a thumb drive or a CD-ROM, it rounds off the last modified time to the nearest even second. That's the smoking gun, or the smoking thumb drive, if you will. That's the property they found on all that data posted by WikiLeaks. It was not a hack. Somebody copied all those files onto a flash drive and walked them out of the building. And most likely that was Seth Rich, and he paid for that with his life. So what Binney said is very simply the data was downloaded to a storage device, a CD-ROM or a thumb drive, and physically transported before WikiLeaks could post it. So that meant it was not a hack. So no matter how you look at it, we're looking at the forensic evidence that says the DNC emails were not hacked. They were downloaded and physically handed to WikiLeaks, which we kind of already knew anyway. And by the way, CD-ROMs don't have the capacity that would be needed for this. It would be a thumb drive. Thumb drives are just, they're amazing. And you need to understand, I'm coming from the place where the first college computer course I took had an IBM computer that had these gigantic disk platters that held 5 whole megabytes. And so to look at this little gizmo that's hanging on my keychain as having 126 gigabytes on it, sometimes I stand in awe of how the technology has advanced during my lifetime. Of course, I get the same feeling looking at the Raspberry Pis. It's just like, wow, that's a complete computer. Okay, getting on back to the anti-Trump Steele dossier. They finally hunted down the source, and no, it was not a Russian defector, and it wasn't Russian anything. It was a president of Uber-left think tank Brookings Institute, and Devin Nunes is reacting to that as well. All this information is coming on out about how it was a frame-up of Trump, and the corporate media is not reporting any of this at all. They're trying very hard not to have to report on any of this at all. That's why they're still obsessed about the Portland riots and the Chicago shootings. And, you know, this last weekend, of course, they had the storms to talk about. And there's another one forming in the Atlantic that's going to go up the eastern seaboard here. All right, getting to the world of political correctness gone mad. And if you're looking for peak idiocy from academic institutions who are falling all over themselves to kowtow to the mob's notions of social justice, look no further than Rutgers University, because the English department there has declared proper use of grammar is a hidden form of racism because it disadvantages students of multilingual, non-standard academic English backgrounds. In other words, if you work to use the correct grammar in your sentences, you're being racist. You remember a while ago when they were trying to sell us all Ebonics? This was supposed to be the new version of English that was favoring the Black population. And even the Black population didn't like it, apparently. Oh, my goodness. My goodness. Okay. Republicans are beating the war drums over Taiwan. In a general sense, it does look like one way or the other, we're going to find ourselves at war with China, and probably before the election. Anyway, now members of the ever-hawkish Republican Party want to make Taiwan an official defense client, with Washington promising to defend the island from the People's Republic of China. And the threat is real. Earlier this month, Taiwan's Foreign Minister Joseph Wu warned that for China, Taiwan would be an extremely convenient sacrificial lamb. He worried the threat is on the rise. Well, call me silly, call me an isolationist, if you will. Why are we risking war with China for Taiwan? Isn't this really an issue between China and Taiwan? Should we get involved in a war with a nuclear power over Taiwan? I mean, let's be practical here. What is Taiwan to the United States of America, other than an unsinkable battleship or aircraft carrier close to the Chinese mainland? I mean, that was the reason they grabbed Hawaii. They called it the unsinkable battleship Hawaii, and they wanted to project power out into the Pacific. This is before we had Guam and Diego Garcia, when Hawaii was the westernmost projection of American naval power. So are they looking at Taiwan to be the same thing over there in the Western Pacific here? If the U.S. guarantees Taipei's security, the danger of war will be great. Barry Posen of MIT observed that the U.S. commitment to Taiwan is simultaneously the most perilous and least strategically necessary commitment that the United States has today. How many Americans' lives might be sacrificed in another people's fight that could go nuclear? It's absolutely right. Absolutely right. What business do we have over there in the Western Pacific? I'll have an answer for that in a little bit here. All right, U.S. officials have now started calling Xi Jinping of North Korea the General Secretary of the Chinese Communist Party instead of China's president. We've got to take a break for commercials. We'll be right back.
Oh, Here at Republic Broadcasting Network, we have been building our online store. Well, we have been focusing on bringing you the best talk show host in the country. Here at Republic Broadcasting Network, we also want our listeners to have products they can use every day and in times of emergency. We have added new products each week to our store. Your support of this network, plus products at the best prices, is a win-win situation. Check out our new store. Go to our website, republicbroadcasting.org, and click on the online store located at the top of our website. Together, we can continue to grow RBN and help our listeners prepare for the future. Go to republicbroadcasting.org and click on our online store or call us.
800-724-2719 extension 3. 800-724-2719 extension 3.
Folks, we're living in a world the likes of which we've never perceived any clearer than we do now. The plan for global governance has been in the works for generations and would have likely been achieved by now, but for the fact that the globalists left open their Achilles heel. With all their tools, Federal Reserve System, fiat currency, no child left behind, and then Common Core education introduced to our schools to dumb us down, vaccines, pharmaceuticals to lobotomize us, GMO foods, insertion of compromised or bought and paid for politicians, judges, mainstream media propaganda, all pieced together like a puzzle designed to ultimately bring the world under submission. But with all their strategy, they forgot one thing: knowledge. And knowledge is power. With knowledge, their bombardment is nullified. Folks, with that, as brilliant and knowledgeable as you've become, among the wisest audience of any radio audience in the world, and you are, I want you to take a moment to reflect and ask yourself, how much of that knowledge did I obtain from Republic Broadcasting Network? How high has my consciousness been raised since I've been a listener? How fast am I now able to discriminate truth from fake news by being a Republic Broadcasting listener? How clear am I now able to see the world since I've been listening to RBN? Ask yourselves those questions, folks. Then ask yourself, what is that knowledge worth to me? Like my morning coffee, how would I survive without it? A voice of truth in a sea of lies. Do we not all need to make sure it survives? Like public broadcasting, we are now finding we can only survive with listener support. Censorship, advertisers being attacked, truth itself being attacked. It's the only way through this. We at Republic Broadcasting humbly ask you to become a supporter. Look at your budget and make a determination of what Republic Broadcasting is worth to you and what you can afford on a monthly basis. Go to republicbroadcasting.org and pledge 20, 30, 40, 50, if possible, 100 a month or more if it's affordable. Click the donate button and become a regular monthly donor. Assure both us and yourself that Republic Broadcasting truth will continue to flow like that morning coffee. The network thanks you.
Welcome to What Really Happened Radio. Visit us online at whatreallyhappened.com. And now, set your eyes on the future and let's consider what really happened.
And welcome back to our show here. And a reminder that Republic Broadcasting and What Really Happened are in the middle of a perpetual fundraiser. We need to buy new equipment, and because the old equipment wears out very, very quickly. It's what we get for buying a radio station over Radio Shack. Anyway, the postal address where you can send a check, money order, or if you prefer anonymity cash is Republic Broadcasting Network, 2251 Double Creek Drive, number 302, Round Rock, Texas, 78664. The phone number where you can make a credit card or debit card donation is 800-724-2719, extension 3. The network thanks you. All right, so we're talking about how all of a sudden the United States has changed how they're calling Xi Jinping. He's supposed to be China's president. He won the election. But now all of a sudden, top U.S. officials, most notably Pompeo, they're now calling him the general secretary of the Chinese Communist Party. This basically signals efforts by the administration to delegitimize Xi's rule, drive a wedge between party and populace, and evoke loaded connotations with the Soviet Union of the Cold War era. Anyway, why don't they just call him evil, get it over and done with? The evil Xi Jinping. We don't believe that either. Pompeo is laying out a new U.S. Cold War against China. And having been a witness to the old Cold War, it's a bad idea. Huge amounts of money are going to be spent to no real end other than to allow our leadership to sneer at each other. It's a huge scam. The U.S. starts increasing their defense spending, then China has to increase their defense spending. And then the U.S. increases their defense spending to match the threat from China. And China increases their defense spending to match the threat from the United States. And the defense contractors get very rich. Their pet politicians get very rich. And the ordinary people are plunged deeper and deeper into poverty. And, you know, all that stuff that was bought and paid for and built back in the 1950s and 1960s to scare off the Russians, most of it is now sitting out in a desert in Arizona, corroding away in the sun. It was never actually used. Thank goodness. That's a good thing that it wasn't used. But did we really need to build all of that stuff only to have it rust away? By the way, there's a show that's out there, Mysteries of the Abandoned. And I've noticed more and more they're starting to visit facilities that were part of the Cold War, abandoned radar stations, things like that, and just looking at the huge amounts of money that were being spent, you know, for facilities that basically didn't last all that long. Now we're hearing about some of these temporary hospitals that were built for COVID-19 patients. One of them treated just 79 patients before it was torn down again. You know, the government has a lot of fun with your money. They really, really, really do. Anyway, Pompeo is out there saying that since the U.S. had changed Soviet behavior, we're confident we can change the behavior of China as well. And the nations of the world have a duty to help the U.S. defend freedom. Boy, oh boy, if I had a nickel for every time the U.S. government said they were out there defending freedom, I wouldn't have to work for John Stadtmiller. And he also warned that our children's children may be at the mercy of the Communist Party. We heard that one back in the 1950s. If you don't stand against the Soviet Union, your children will be raised as communists. Talk to the liberals. They don't think that's a bad thing. They're all socialists out there. It's just getting silly. It's another Red Scare. And we have been through so many of those. Ooh, it's a Red Scare. This time it's the Yellow Scare. Amazing here. So what does America want by intensifying the confrontation with China? According to experts interviewed by Sputnik, neutralizing China's competitive advantages, curbing the growth of its influence in the world, making concessions in trade negotiations, and tackling the challenges of the presidential election campaign are the main motives for a new round of confrontation with China provoked by the United States. Well, let's pull back here and say, why is China having a competitive advantage? Well, simple, because the leadership of the United States of America turned a blind eye when manufacturing CEOs said, we don't need to manufacture products anymore. We'll let China do it for us. And China made all the money for manufacturing products for sale. Products that were at least nominally American products. And in the process, they copied off the technology to incorporate into their products. You cannot have a healthy economy without having something for sale, whether it's laptops or ears of corn or pork bellies or something. You've got to sell. You can't just take money, shake it back and forth, and expect it to grow all by itself. It doesn't work that way. And of course, as China becomes richer, it becomes more influential. It isn't that China is rising, it's that the United States empire is sinking. We're at the end of the lifespan of the United States of America. I'm going to hate to see it happen, but it's historically inevitable. There may be something called the United States after. I mean, look how radically we changed at the end of the Civil War. Maybe it's time for another radical change, hopefully in favor of the people and not in favor of the bankers. What I'd like to see. Meanwhile, the American flag has been lowered at the U.S. consulate in Chengdu as diplomats are ordered to leave the country after the Chinese mission in Houston was closed over accusations of spying. We have to take another break for commercials, and we'll be right back.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Homeowners, are you in foreclosure, expecting to be served with a foreclosure lawsuit, or suspect your lender has coerced you into an illegal mortgage transaction? A huge number of mortgages made in the last 10 years have legal issues and are possibly defective. State laws and the U.S. Supreme Court have upheld that defective mortgage documents are grounds for foreclosure defense and for counterclaims in favor of the homeowner. If your mortgage has been sold or assigned since closing the loan, it may be defective and you may be paying the wrong party, and the lender may not have standing or the right to foreclose or collect payments under the law. If you would like to know if your mortgage is legal or not, or know if you are paying the right party, we can help. Our initial consultations are free of charge. We are not attorneys. We are legal researchers and work closely with experienced lawyers who know how to help you find the evidence to help you keep your home. Call toll free 1-855-2-KEEP-IT. That's 1-855-2-KEEP-IT today.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
Extendovite really works. Here are some reviews from Amazon.com. Nikki, great product. Have to try it for a few months to see results. After taking Extendovite for about 6 months, I have noticed improvement on the numbness of my hands and wrists from carpal tunnel. I will continue to buy the product. Ken Peaks, 5 out of 5 stars. Works as advertised. This formula is very powerful. Be careful to follow directions. I am feeling much better. My heart rate and blood pressure has stabilized and my lower edema has reduced. Lower leg pain due to blood clots has disappeared. Thank you. To order, call 1-877-928-8822. That's 1-877-928-8822 or visit our website at heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
Hey, honey, I'm home. I grabbed the newspaper on the way home. Look at all the news today.
The newspaper? Don't you know that all you're going to get in the newspaper is propaganda, twisted news, and false information?
Honey, this is a national newspaper. It has to be true.
Ha! For some reason, a majority of the population believe anything the mainstream media tells them. The newspaper does not give out the important attention on what's happening to this country and news that affects our daily lives. Say, does that newspaper mention anything about the North American Union?
No, not that I can see.
I didn't think so. You need to go to www.newswithviews.com, where truth is more important than political correctness. That's www.newswithviews.com. Hey, don't throw that away. We can use that in the birdcage.
Okay, move over. Let me start reading newswithviews.com.
The truth? Read all about it at newswithviews.com. Newswithviews.com, where reality shatters illusion.
Some are maxed out all their credit cards. Some are working 2 jobs and living in cars. Minimum wage won't pay for a roof, won't pay for a drink. If you gotta have proof, just try it yourself, Mr. CEO. See how far $5.15 an hour will go. Take a part-time job at one of your stores. I bet you can't make it here anymore.
Welcome back to our show here, and story coming out of defenseone.com. Trump's all-stick, no-carrot approach has brought 2 U.S. adversaries together. And, of course, they're talking about Iran and China. Now, China's investment in Iran is not a new phenomenon. They've been business partners for a very long time. Iran is a critical corridor for Chinese President Xi Jinping's $1 trillion Belt and Road Infrastructure Initiative. Iran has increasingly benefited from tens of billions of dollars in credit from China's state-backed financial institutions. Beijing has a hand in wide swaths of the Iranian market, including the transportation, nuclear, and energy sectors. A draft strategic partnership agreement, however, takes Beijing's investment in Iran to a new level. Apparently, they've settled on a $400 billion accord covering 100 separate projects across the banking, telecommunications, port, and oil industry, not to mention increased cooperation between the 2 nations in weapons development and intelligence. And it's a reflection of the importance of the Chinese Communist Party attaches to the untapped Iranian market. Well, getting on back to this comment from the original author about all stick, no carrot, he's absolutely right. And it's not just Trump, it's the U.S. government as a whole. Do what we say or we hit you with a stick. And I think the reason they're not offering any carrots is we don't have any carrots left that anybody wants. The United States is a paper tiger now. They don't have anything to bargain with. What we're making now is junk, like the F-35. Nobody wants that. Anyway, turning to the international news, militants continue shelling settlements in Syria's north, according to the Russian military. The Hayat Tahrir al-Sham terrorist group shelled settlements in the Syrian provinces of Aleppo and Idlib. And this is from Alexander Sherbitsky at a daily briefing yesterday. We have registered one shelling of the Tel Mardik settlement, one shelling of the Eco settlement in the Latakia province, and one shelling of the Irbik settlement, one shelling of the Sakla settlement. Say that 3 times fast. One shelling of the Malaja settlement and one shelling of the Khan Tuman in the Idlib province, coming from positions of the Nusra terrorists. As per the 2019 Russian-Turkish memorandum, forces of the two countries have conducted joint patrolling of the Hasaka province. So they're still shooting at each other over there. Okay, this is are you kidding? This is a trick question. This is from Outline.com. Did Trump bomb Syria on false grounds? Yes, he did. But for some reason, some people are still just catching up here. And there's a quote from the article saying, yes, there were early grounds for skepticism. The Syrian government was on the verge of retaking the last Duma holdouts of Jaish al-Islam, a Saudi-backed militia that was relentlessly shelling the Syrian capital. To suddenly deploy chemical weapons would mean that Syrian forces knowingly crossed the red line that would trigger U.S. military intervention. Subsequent reporting from British journalist Robert Fisk of The Independent, BBC producer Riyam Dilati, and James Harkin's investigation for The Intercept found evidence that the civilians filmed at the hospital were not exposed to toxic gas. They were, in fact, exposed to dust from conventional weapons. They were lying about Syria's chemical weapons the same way they lied about Iraq's nuclear weapons and chemical weapons and biological weapons. Because the motto of the United States government is, if at first you don't succeed, lie, lie again. Now, friction between Ethiopia and Egypt is continuing to grow over the Great Ethiopian Renaissance Dam, which sits across the Nile River as it crosses through Ethiopia, and they're starting to fill the reservoir behind it. Egypt is saying the project will devastate its economy, farming, and ecosystem bound up with the Nile River downstream. Well, let's look at the mechanisms of dams. If the Ethiopians shut off the Nile completely, yes, it would be an environmental disaster for Egypt. But once the reservoir behind a dam is filled, the water coming out the spillway at the bottom is the same volume as the water coming in from upstream. So while the Nile may have a slightly lower and slower flow while the reservoir is filling, after the reservoir is filled, the Nile should come back. And what the argument really seems to be is, you know, who owns the Nile River? Obviously, the nations own that portion of the Nile River that goes throughout their borders. But in the case of both Egypt and Ethiopia, they're claiming ownership over the entire river, which is impractical to say the least. But Ethiopia days ago added fuel to the fire when the country's foreign minister tweeted in the national language, Amharic, that the Nile is ours. And I tell you what I'm concerned is happening is Ethiopia is inviting Egypt to simply come up and bomb the dam, which they would have to do before the reservoir was filled, or you would have that flooding going into the south of Egypt itself. Meanwhile, Turkey and Greece are in a war of words over Hagia Sophia, and this is Istanbul's Hagia Sophia. It was a mosque, then it was a Christian church, then it was a mosque again, and now it's going back to being a mosque again. Apparently, this is after Islamic prayers were held at the ancient site for the first time in 90 years. Now, relations between NATO allies Ankara and Athens have been uneasy in recent months, but tensions have recently increased over Hagia Sophia and energy riches in the Eastern Mediterranean. I have a feeling it's more about the energy riches than it is about Hagia Sophia. But again, and you've probably seen Hagia Sophia. It's been used in a lot of movies, was used in From Russia with Love, early James Bond film, and a lot of other places. It is an amazing building and a very fascinating history. Okay. Turkey is rejecting U.S. and European Union calls to cease the Eastern Mediterranean gas drilling. Greece is threatening military action. And again, it's all about the oil. It's all about the oil. And grabbing what's left of it. If we were to take all the money being spent on war to seize each other's oil fields and put it into serious, non-politicized research into new energy forms, we'd find them. Like we needed a new Manhattan project or a new Apollo moon project, we could find a new source of energy that would free us from dependency on oil and petroleum. Of course, the oil cartels don't want that to happen either. And governments like having something to fight over, and oil is a really good thing to fight over. Okay. All righty, let's see. Flagrant violation. This happened last week, where apparently a couple of U.S. fighters flew very, very close to an Iranian passenger jet, causing it to rather violently evade. And apparently a lot of people got hurt. In the video that was taken on board the airplane, you could see, people with blood on their face. One of the American jets could be seen through the window in the video. And Iran has protested the flagrant violation of international law to the United Nations after it said U.S. fighter planes sparked panic on Iranian passenger jet over Syria. Shades of the USS Vincennes. I can understand why that pilot was a little bit nervous. Wouldn't be the first time the United States has shot down an Iranian passenger jet. So the passengers on the jet are saying, how horrible it was. One said, you're almost dying, but you can't do anything about it. And apparently one gentleman was injured so badly, his back was fractured, and he had to undergo emergency surgery after the plane landed in Beirut. All right. U.S. military flies a record number of surveillance planes near China's coast in July as part of Washington's increased military presence in Indo-Pacific. The month of July has seen a record number of aerial surveillance flights by U.S. military aircraft in the South China Sea and near China's coast. By the way, little side note here, Australia has now notified China and the UN that they do not recognize any of China's claims in the South China Sea. Can you not see that there is a new world war looming in front of us? Everybody's just deciding what it is they're going to fight for. The war's already decided. Now they're just working out the fine details like, what are we going to tell the people that this is all about? What's it for? Anyway, at the moment, the U.S. military is sending 3 to 5 reconnaissance aircraft each day to the South China Sea. And while July saw record numbers, the increased flights started earlier this year with much higher frequency, closer distance, and more variety of missions. Okay, over in the Middle East, Algeria has become the first Arab country to obtain this upgraded Chinese anti-tank missile system, the HJ-12. I'm sure U.S. defense contractors are upset about that. No, you can't buy that. You have to buy our TOW missiles and various other things that we make. Other countries are making better weapons that cost less. Over in Israel, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is looking at dismantling the unity government he currently has with blue and white party leader Benny Gantz. But before calling new elections, he will try to exploit a loophole in the coalition agreement to form an alternative government, the report said Sunday. In other words, Netanyahu is looking to ditch Gantz and form a right-wing coalition. And Gantz had to see that this was coming because we all saw it was coming. When they formed their unity government, Netanyahu was back in power and said he was going to turn over the government to Benny Gantz somewhere down the road. I said, no, he won't. Gee, I hate being right all the time. Apparently, there have been several violent attacks on anti-Netanyahu protesters across the country. Right now, there are massive protests taking place over Netanyahu, who's handling the COVID virus, the economy. People in Israel are very, very unhappy with him. And now it looks like they're sending out gangs of thugs to try and beat the protesters back in their homes. I don't think it's going to happen. People are very, very angry around the world. And the more people riot in places like Portland and Chicago and Seattle, the more people in the rest of the world say, that's okay. That's the new normal. Rioting in the streets against the government is the new normal. So let's go have fun here. Apparently, Israeli surveillance drones violated Lebanese airspace over 24 times. And apparently, Israeli aircraft violated Lebanese airspace 9 times on Saturday alone. All violations were in a circular flight format and are being monitored in coordination with the United Nations Interim Force in Lebanon. Okay. Lebanese Hezbollah fighters carry out op against Israel in response to the Syria aggression. Israel military says it's ordered residents along the Lebanese border to remain indoors after explosions and exchange of fire were reported between Israeli soldiers and Lebanese forces along Lebanon's southern border. The Israeli army is also closing major roads and has asked residents to avoid unnecessary trips. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said in Jerusalem Al-Quds that the Tel Aviv regime is in the midst of a complicated event. That's putting it mildly. Large explosions rock an arms depot of Iraqi forces in a military base near Baghdad. Boy, a lot of explosions going on. Iran's power station, their centrifuge, and now we're seeing an arms depot belonging to the Iraqi Federal Police Forces and Popular Mobilization Units, better known by the Arabic word Hasht al-Sha'abi, in a military compound southwest of the capital, Baghdad. All right, we're going to go ahead and open up the phones here because we got callers waiting on the line. So we're going to start with Al in Canada. Aloha, Al. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hi, Mike. Hope you had a good weekend.
Yes, I did.
I remember, and I was looking for it. I was going to send it to you. I remember seeing this video that was posted on Twitter a few years back where they showed like this hallway in a hospital in Syria where these people were apparently being treated for this chemical attack, and they panned like really quick to the corner, and there's this guy standing there kind of laughing. And then all of a sudden he realizes he's being filmed. Did you remember seeing that?
I remember seeing that one. I remember seeing the one where they were panning the camera over what were supposed to be dead children, and one of the kids just opens the eye to see if the camera's gone by.
Yeah.
And then there was the one where
I was looking for that.
Yeah, and then there was the one where they were treating all these people who supposedly died of sarin gas, and the people treating them aren't wearing gloves, they're not wearing face masks, they're not wearing protective clothing. And sarin, you know, if you just touch somebody who was killed with sarin, you're going to get it, and you're going to be very sick if you survive it all.
Yep. And then and then another one was that picture of that little boy taken. That was you know, obviously what's the word I'm looking for? It was all set up.
Yeah.
The kid that apparently they said he fell off a boat or something.
Yeah, and they repositioned him on the beach to make the picture look better. That was more
exactly.
That was more the refugee immigration, the migration coming from the Middle East to Europe. That had nothing to do with Syria.
Yeah, to justify it, right? You know, people just waltzing into other people's countries.
Yeah.
Right across the border.
Yep.
And then getting a bunch of money like they do in Canada. Come on in here. We'll set you up in a hotel and we'll give you $40,000 a year. Also, this morning, before I went to work, I checked the CDC's website. So now the mortality rate of COVID-19 is at like 0.28%.
Okay.
So it's just a little above a cold. That's, of course, based upon numbers that are coming out now, which have been padded and whatnot. So the government and media hysteria is once again just pure nonsense. And I don't know why. I've been trying to figure out why they keep hammering on this stuff, other than to try and control us, keep us in a state of fear, maybe crash the monetary system that's in place right now. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I really don't know. But there's a reason, and I'm sure you've been thinking about it a lot too. I'd love to hear from the other callers what they think the reason is, because unless you have a pre-existing condition, you're circling the drain. This is not going to hurt anyone.
No.
So that's all I had to say, Mike. I'm I look forward to hearing some of the other callers' ideas. Maybe come up with something. Thanks a lot. There's the music.
Yeah, there's the music. We've got to take a break for commercials. We've got more callers waiting on the line, and we will be right back.
Is the Second Amendment your line in the sand? Is the United States Constitution important to you? Are you worried about gun confiscation? You need to join us for free at gunconfiscation.com. At gunconfiscation.com, you will meet like-minded patriots, get the latest Second Amendment news, and find anything you need to prepare for gun confiscation. Visit gunconfiscation.com today. That's gunconfiscation.com. Which side are you on?
Talk Right, the conservative app offered by TalkStream Live that caters exclusively to the conservative talk radio community. Here you'll see only talk shows and podcasts from the conservative right. All the big broadcast names and online digital shows in one place. Talk Right makes it easy to find all your favorite conservative talkers with all the upscale features you come to expect from TalkStream Live. Keep up with the fast-paced political world. Download Talk Right today from Google Play or the App Store.
Did you know that you can be tracked and traced when you're online? With identity theft and cybercrimes on the rise, your passwords, your identity, and even your physical location can be revealed to complete strangers. Would you like to surf the internet anonymously and not have to worry about these threats? Well, now you can by visiting patriotinternet.com. For about $2 per month, patriotinternet.com will conceal your IP address and your physical location, allowing you to browse the web, send emails, and instant message anonymously. patriotinternet.com will bypass filters, block sites, and keyword blocking. You can also bypass logging by your router and your ISP. With patriotinternet.com, there is no software to install and uses 128-bit encryption for your protection. When using wireless hotspots, patriotinternet.com shields your information from identity thieves and is compatible with Windows, Mac, and Linux. Protect your identity and your freedom with anonymous internet access from patriotinternet.com. Visit patriotinternet.com today.
Extend your life with Extendovite, a 7-herb combination made from garlic, cayenne, bilberry, hawthorn, ginkgo biloba, valerian, and milk thistle. Each herb was chosen for their abilities to help improve irregular heartbeats, chest pain, lower cholesterol, as well as normalize blood pressure and clean and strengthen arteries, plus much, much more. Doctors have taken people off of some or all of their pills just because they believe their patients got better while taking Extendovite. Get the dependability of Extendovite. Just see how you feel in 6 months. A 2-month supply of either capsules or liquid is only $69.95 plus shipping and handling. Call 1-877-928-8822. That's 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
What this country is coming to, I sure would like to know. If they don't do something by and by, the rich will live and the poor will die. Doggone, the panic is on. Can't get no way, can't draw no pay. Unemployment getting worse.
Welcome back to our show here. We're going to go right back to the phones to Kelly in Austin. Hello, Kelly. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hi there, Mike. A couple things. I talked with you recently about getting a ham license. And I got
Yes.
mine this weekend. I took a
Congratulations.
remote test. Yeah. And so I'm going to work on the general next. I'll do that probably next month. But it was pretty straightforward. I think you'd enjoy studying for that. This moron who got himself shot this weekend in Austin was parading around the street carrying a loaded AK-47.
Yes.
And he and a number of these social justice keyboard warriors converged in a car that was at an intersection on Congress Avenue, 4th Street and Congress Avenue in Austin. Started banging on the car. And then he apparently, according to the driver of the car, pointed his weapon at the driver. And whatever happened after that happened, we're not sure what the sequence of events was. But if you watch the video, you can hear 5 rapid bursts, which clearly come from a rifle. They're loud. They're not inside anything. And then you hear 3 follow-up shots, muffled, which sound like they were coming from the inside of a car.
Yeah.
Now, the local media are trying to paint this guy as something akin to a martyr, and they're claiming that the driver shot first. However, it's difficult to reconcile what you hear on that video, those 5 rapid bursts, clearly not confined anywhere, clearly coming from a rifle, sounding exactly like an AK-47 or a similar caliber, followed up by 3 bursts from a smaller caliber weapon, obviously fired from inside something.
Well, I assume that it was the gentleman with the AK-47 who was shot.
Yes. And
Okay,
not long before that, it might have been the same evening or the evening before that, but he was interviewed by someone on TikTok, and he, of course, was blowing smoke and claiming that the people who were opposed to them were too scared to come out, and that they were a bunch of pussies.
I remember that.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Well, he found out that maybe somebody wasn't as big a pussy as he thought he was.
Well, in a gunfight, the loser is the next to last one to pull the trigger.
Well, that's right. But what this underscores, Mike, is that these social justice warriors who are discovering firearms for the first times in their life are running up and down the street with weapons that they don't understand. They don't really have any familiarity with the weapons. They don't understand how serious it is, and they're carrying things around in settings that are easily volatile and can blow up in a hurry. And that's exactly what happened to this. That's exactly what happened to Mr. Foster, Garrett Foster, who was hit 3 times. It's interesting that you can't get a straight story from the media in Austin. It seems as if they're bending over backward to make this guy sound like he was the victim, when in fact he and his cohorts there were actually perpetrators of this event. Or they share equally in the responsibility, let's say.
All right. Well, Kelly, I got to let you go. We got to take a break for station identification. Back with more phone calls after these few words.
Tired of being lied to by mass media? It's growing more and more apparent today that news is received less and less through standard media outlets. Even with a growing audience every day, RBN is beginning to direct more efforts into social media. Social media and the use of the internet is fast becoming the primary source of people for news, regardless of demographic. RBN has set out to provide some of the best news on the internet through republicbroadcasting.org, and also has begun to use the tools to our advantage by way of social media. Republic Broadcasting is now operating a Facebook page to function as yet another avenue to have our collective voice reach new audiences across not only America, but across the globe as well. The Facebook page features not only news, but also an RBN player to listen to our broadcast. Get involved by visiting facebook.com/Republic Broadcasting and liking our page and share it with your friends and family, because you can handle the truth.
You're listening to the Republic Broadcasting Network, because you can handle the truth.
What Really Happened with your host, Mike Rivero. The history the government hopes you never learn. Here is your host, Michael Rivero.
And welcome back to our show here. We're going to go back to the phone lines to Laura in Michigan. Hello, Laura. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hi, Mike. Hi, Mike. I think we should go back to calling the disease, dropping the word COVID and going back to Corona. Everybody needs to go to the RBN archives and to Immunize Wisely Saturday night and listen to True Ott talk about what this is all about. And you'll realize that these tests, it's coronavirus that's already in our body. Especially like now that everybody's been test positive because of hay fever, weeds cutting the grass and all that kind of thing. We need to go back to Corona. That's the original name of it. COVID was just a made-up name.
Well, no, it isn't. It's a contraction of the official designation of this particular variation. See, coronavirus refers to an entire class of viruses that have a particular morphology.
Well, everybody's got to listen to True Ott on Immunize Wisely Saturday night. Also, I want to tell you, you gave us some good news in the beginning of your newscast. I hear that more of them are shooting each other, shooting and stabbing each other. That's the only way we're going to get rid of these savages, is for them to kill each other off. They don't want police. They don't want Trump to come in with federal officers. We just got to hope they're going to kill each other off or head to Africa where they belong.
Well, you need to understand, most of the people that are rioting out there aren't blacks. They really aren't.
Well, if they're riding with them, with the savages, they're black then, too.
Okay, I have a real problem using the word savages. Okay, they're angry. There's no question about that. Savages, I don't know. In fact, by the way, earlier in the show, we were talking about how Rutgers University was saying that good grammar is racist. Well, apparently there's already a backlash against that, where Rutgers is being accused of being racist by assuming that minorities can't write correctly. So that one definitely came home to roost.
I'm just not going to feel sorry for them. I mean, they have their own life. They're sovereign citizens. And if they don't want to do this, they could be decent people, decent civilian people. That's fine with me. That's good. But they got to do it on their own and not follow the crowd.
All right. Well, thank you very much. We're going to let you go and switch over to Mark in North Carolina.
Okay, thank you. Okay,
all right.
thanks.
Bye-bye.
Okay, bye.
Okay. Hello, Mark. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind? Mark, are you there?
Oh, yeah. You hear me now?
I can hear you now.
Hear me? Good. Okay. Listen, I was talking about the Portland situation first.
Yeah.
What they're doing to those federal officers who are these are mostly like federal court officers and federal building guards, federal protection officers.
Yes.
I know they incorporated into Homeland Security a few years ago, but that's basically what they are. It's not fair to them. Now that they do have a little bit reinforcements now from the Border Patrol and ICE, but it's still not fair. This is a siege that's going on. This is more than just a riot. This is a siege. These guys are outnumbered. They're just about surrounded. The Portland police are a bunch of punks and cowards because they're not going in there and helping their fellow officers. And I don't care what the mayor would tell them. If they were really took their oaths as peace officers properly, they would not be letting this happen. So what Trump needs to do, he needs to send in real federal troops, the real thing, not disguised as army, but the actual army, the 82nd Airborne, the 101. These are units that have traditionally have been sent in to riots and other disturbances. It is every right. He has every right to do it as president because order is broken down. The mayor refuses to do anything. The police chief refuses to do anything. I don't know about the sheriff, what the sheriff is doing or not doing, but the fact of the matter is he has every right and a responsibility to send in real federal troops. And I'll go even further. The mayor of Portland should be arrested also for endangering the lives of his own people. This guy is a radical. He's probably a member of Antifa. And by the way, what you said to that lady was right. Most of these rioters are not black. Most of them are white, spoiled white kids from the suburbs, probably wealthy or upper middle class, that are going around like a bunch of spoiled punks, committing these acts. And they need to be dealt with. They need to be dealt with. And if it's not dealt with by whether it's sending in federal troops or not, you're going to have, sooner or later, you're going to have militias coming in there, and they're going to do it themselves. Militias and biker gangs. Okay? People are sick and tired of this fight. This should not be happening. This is a threat to the whole country because if this spreads, it's just going to make it more difficult. And we should thank God for the Second Amendment, Mike. The most important part of the Constitution. Because without the Second Amendment, all the other amendments don't mean anything because they could just be squashed. Your rights could just be squashed, as you see they're trying to do as it is. The other thing I want to bring up about what you was talking about China, I would say these people in Washington couldn't be that crazy to go to war with a superpower, okay, that would very likely end in destruction of mankind, okay, especially if Russia gets into it on top of it. But then again, so many of these people are on psych meds, things like that. So many of these congressmen and senators, who knows about Trump himself and Pompeo, who knows? And then there's some religious fanatics like Pompeo and Kushner that, you know, who seem to think we're going to have some kind of Armageddon. And they're dangerous too, even if they're not on psych meds, because they're religious fanatics and they believe that garbage. And that could also lead us into a lot of trouble. And one other thing, Mike, I know you had, I was very happy you had Brian Dawson on the other day. That man is great. He is so courageous. He takes, you know, he says what's on his mind. He's kicked off of one station after another, you know, on YouTube or whatever else he's on. He keeps speaking his mind. That individual who called him was just looking for trouble, okay? And I can't really blame Ryan for what he did, what he said. The man is great. I hope you guys do have him on again because the man is awesome. I wouldn't mind seeing him have his own radio show somewhere, you know?
Well, he used to. He used to have one. Okay. And here's the thing. Had it been a private conversation, I would not have a problem with anything that Ryan Dawson said in response to that very obvious troll. But it wasn't a private conversation. He was on the radio. He was on Republic Broadcasting, and there are certain standards to be followed. And the professionalism is you don't let the trolls get to you. You don't let them trigger you off and then go on out and say things that can result in being part of the censor culture. You know, we were concerned that YouTube might want to cut off our archives because of what Ryan said. The FCC could get involved for our on-air affiliates for that kind of language because we don't have a 5-second delay, which we should have one of those as soon as some generous donor will give us the money for one.
All right, I just thought I'd say that because, you know, I have nothing but the most respect for Ryan. I think he's great. I think he's awesome. He probably knows more about 9/11 than anybody, at least anybody else that's writing or talking about it. He's right to the root of it. He doesn't go along with, well, the building may have fallen because of this, the building may have all this. He shows there was foreign intelligence involved.
Yes.
Dancing is around. There's no question from Mossad. I mean, they admitted it was Mossad. They never should have been let go. They should have never let what's this guy's name? Cherkov there. He was the one who let him go. This guy, later on he became Director of Homeland Security.
Yeah.
And,
Michael, are you thinking about Michael Chertoff? He was head of, yeah.
Yeah, Chertoff. At the time he was with the Justice Department. So he was the one who ordered these clowns released. And there's no question that somehow or another Israeli intelligence was involved. Whether they actually put the explosives in there or whether they direct or what. Obviously, they knew something was going down. Otherwise, they wouldn't have been setting up across the street there, okay, ready for the before this actually happened, okay, before the plan actually hit. There's no question about it. I mean, you don't have to. Come on, I can figure that out. And Ryan is right. He's pushing on that. Not which way did the building fall? Could it have been in what kind of explosives could have been used, and could fire have brought the buildings down, or was it impossible? He gets right to he gets right to the target. In other words, he gets right on target.
Okay, well, let me clarify here right now. I don't have an issue with Ryan's point of view, especially on 9/11, and I find myself, pretty much in complete agreement there. The question is one of professionalism, and the decision to say no more on RBN didn't come from me, But again, I have to understand, we have to be able to trust all of our on-air hosts, to be cognizant of that there are certain words we can't say, and that just being professional means that we keep our cool and we don't let ourselves, get tangled up with the trolls. Now, some other radio hosts, they love that sort of thing. They figure it's good radio, and maybe it is. But here at RBN, we're all about sharing information with people without a lot of Sturm und Drang.
Right, and Ryan knows that too. He knows you weren't behind. He knows. He was saying it in his own on his YouTube channel. It's just that he blames it on some Karen that called in or something like that. That's what he said. Some Karen must have called in or something. As a matter of fact, that's the name of his video. They I've been Karen. So he knows it's not you. He said he's nothing but admiration for you. So
yeah.
Anyway. Just thought I'd just say something about that because, I do feel kind of bad about it, Ryan, okay? Because he's getting the short end of the stick in a lot of ways. Not just, not just here. They're bouncing. They demonetize him. They're making it hard for him even to get super chats. They're really, coming down on him, and he's too good of a guy for that to happen, So anyway, that's about all I want to say, Mike.
All right. Well, thanks an awful lot. We're going to let you go. The phone lines are open, 800-313-9443. Getting on back to the international news, the United States is accusing Russia of arming the Libyan rebels. Talk about the pot calling the kettle black, because how did this whole mess in Libya get started? The U.S. was arming the Libyan rebels to take out Muammar Gaddafi. And they took out Gaddafi, and they still can't settle Libya down. Now what they're doing is they're looking for a reason to re-escalate, to go back in there with U.S. force to cement the new internationally approved, meaning handpicked by the U.S. Government, that will make Libya's oil available to the West to be sold only for the U.S. dollar. So the Pentagon has released satellite photos showing greatly expanded Russian presence in Libya. And by golly, that's our job, isn't it? Have presence in Libya and Syria and Afghanistan and all these other things. So you've got the U.S. accusing Russia of arming the Libyan rebels, and all of a sudden Washington thinks this is a bad thing. They certainly didn't think it was bad when it was the U.S. doing the arming. Because the goal here is, besides getting people to shoot each other, the goal here is the aftermath. Who's the new government of Libya going to be beholding to? The United States or Russia? Who gets the reconstruction contracts? Who gets access to the resources? All right, for the last 23 years, the United States has carried out a media war against Venezuela, and the United States has just announced it will start a media war with Venezuela. It's almost comical. And since 1997, when Hugo Chavez began to emerge in the polls as a presidential option. Until today, the United States has led the most violent media initiatives to influence Venezuelan politics and change the course that through elections the Venezuelan people have taken. And it's an old and stubborn strategy. And journalistic reports say that the United States is preparing a new strategy against Venezuela in which it will use the media as part of its pressure campaign against Maduro. And I want you to remember something. Who's the aggressor in this situation? Who's the aggressor over in the South China Sea? Who's the aggressor in Afghanistan and Syria and Iran and Iraq and all those other places? It's not those countries. They're not attacking us. My Siri watch just answered. All right, you do the radio show here. All righty. Apparently, the new defense attorney in the 9/11 Guantanamo trial is requesting a 30-month delay to prepare. And these are the 5 men who have been tortured into confessing to the 9/11 attacks. And that's because the new defense attorney in the case has requested a 30-month extension to prepare. David Bruck, the new lead attorney for Ramzi bin al-Shibh, one of the 5 men charged in the 9/11 case, estimated in a legal filing on Wednesday he would need 2.5 years to get caught up on the proceedings. The following estimate of the work before me reflects prevailing professional norms at the time of this trial as required by well-established Supreme Court precedent. So they're just going to drag it out. It's a kangaroo court anyway. Because those guys in Guantanamo more than likely had absolutely nothing to do with it. Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, they literally tortured his kids and made him witness it. They waterboarded him something like 140 times before he confessed. Talking about the economic news here, gold prices have surged to a record high amid coronavirus worries and U.S.-China tensions. Spot gold traded up more than 2% at about $1,941 per ounce after earlier trading as high as $1,943.9 per ounce. These levels eclipsed the previous record high price set in September 2011. Now, here's a very interesting story. The U.S. is cranking up pressure on Europe over the Russia pipeline projects, and they're talking mostly about the Nord Stream 2 and one other pipeline that is going to bring Russian oil and gas to Europe. And the U.S. is putting pressure on Europe to say, no, we're not going to buy oil and gas from Russia. We're going to buy it from American fracking companies. There's only one small problem. The fracking company oil and gas is much more expensive, because of the unit cost of extraction is more expensive. But that's what the United States is doing. They're going around the world saying, you will buy your stuff from us. We don't care if it's inferior and costs more. You will buy it from us. And I think the rest of the world is getting very, very tired of that. So, risking a further escalation of tensions, the United States is increasing pressure on European contractors to drop out of the Nord Stream 2, a major Russian pipeline project that would transport gas to Europe under the Baltic Sea. In recent days, a dozen U.S. officials from the Department of State, the Department of the Treasury, and the Department of Energy have held video conferences with European contractors to underline their concern about the energy project. The officials signaled that they want to stop the completion of the $11.7 billion project, threatening representatives of the European countries with far-reaching consequences if they continue to cooperate with the Russian project. A lot of chest thumping going on. It's like, you know, where's Jane Goodall when you need her? You know, all the silverbacks are thumping their chest and saying, you will buy our oil. Amazing here. All right, the U.S. economic recovery is stalling. No surprise to those of us with our eyes open. Economic growth is beginning to reverse, and the food bank lines are re-emerging. Last week, initial jobless claims broke a 15-week streak of lower claims as new concerns the labor recovery has hit a snag. JP Morgan Chase recently said Chase card spending suggests recovery has stalled, and data through July 18th, our tracker of spending by a panel of 30 million Chase credit card and debit card holders, are little changed since late June, suggesting that the rapid economic rebound was seen in May and early June has lost its momentum. In other words, it's not working. There's no V-shaped recovery. We're going to be a long, long time getting out of this COVID hole, if you will. Okay, we got to take a break for commercials, and we'll be right back after these few words.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
Extendovite really works. Here are some reviews from Amazon.com. Amazon customer, 5 out of 5 stars. I'm quite happy about it. This product has relieved what appears to be an angina problem, pain in the chest after climbing stairs, and short on breath. I'm quite happy about it. Dr. Sam Surreal. Good product and ingredients. Kept my blood pressure normal after mild heart attack in 2015. Switched to plant-based diet also to reverse atherosclerosis. John Bispicos, 5 out of 5 stars. Built up my immune system. To order, call 1-877-928-8822. That's 1-877-928-8822 or visit our website at heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
Folks, we're living in a world the likes of which we've never perceived any clearer than we do now. The plan for global governance has been in the works for generations and would have likely been achieved by now, but for the fact that the globalists left open their Achilles heel. With all their tools, Federal Reserve System, fiat currency, no child left behind, and then Common Core education introduced to our schools to dumb us down, vaccines, pharmaceuticals to lobotomize us, GMO foods, insertion of compromised or bought and paid for politicians, judges, mainstream media propaganda, all pieced together like a puzzle designed to ultimately bring the world under submission. But with all their strategy, they forgot one thing: knowledge. And knowledge is power. With knowledge, their bombardment is nullified. Folks, with that, as brilliant and knowledgeable as you've become, among the wisest audience of any radio audience in the world, and you are, I want you to take a moment to reflect and ask yourself, how much of that knowledge did I obtain from Republic Broadcasting Network? How high has my consciousness been raised since I've been a listener? How fast am I now able to discriminate truth from fake news by being a Republic Broadcasting listener? How clear am I now able to see the world since I've been listening to RBN? Ask yourselves those questions, folks. Then ask yourself, what is that knowledge worth to me? Like my morning coffee, how would I survive without it? A voice of truth in a sea of lies. Do we not all need to make sure it survives? Like public broadcasting, we are now finding we can only survive with listener support. Censorship, advertisers being attacked, truth itself being attacked. It's the only way through this. We at Republic Broadcasting humbly ask you to become a supporter. Look at your budget and make a determination of what Republic Broadcasting is worth to you and what you can afford on a monthly basis. Go to republicbroadcasting.org and pledge 20, 30, 40, 50, if possible, 100 a month or more if it's affordable. Click the donate button and become a regular monthly donor. Assure both us and yourself that Republic Broadcasting truth will continue to flow like that morning coffee. The network thanks you.
If you got the money, honey, we got the bombs. We'll plant them anywhere you like and blow up anyone. Whip this world into a frenzy, killing babies, dads, and moms. If you got the money, honey, we got the bombs. If you got the money, well, we won't say we did. The towers in
Welcome back to our show here. The phone lines are open, 800-313-9443, and we're going to go to Tom in Florida. Hello, Tom. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind today?
Yeah, Michael, good day to you. Mike, what's on my mind today is they had this on the news that Jussie Smollett is gonna he was protesting in front of Trump's tower. And how is this guy, the guy that started this whole nonsense, how is this guy able to go protest against Trump when he should be probably under house arrest for all the filthy lies he tried to pull on Trump and Trump's voters? How is this guy Smollett getting away with this?
That's a very, very good question because I guess he must be out on bond for, the charges of lying to the police.
Yes, absolutely, Michael. But, he's over there protesting right in front of Trump's towers. Wait a minute, that's in New York, isn't it? Or I guess there's one in Chicago, isn't there? Trump Tower in Chicago?
There's one everywhere. There's even one in Honolulu.
Okay, maybe it's the one in Chicago, but still, he's out there protesting and saying that Trump's a racist and all this. Can you see the correlation here? This is insanity. I mean, this is unbelievable, and this guy's getting away with this. And Michael, you see how many police officers got injured with their eyes? Some of these guys are going to be blind permanently, maybe. I mean, this is unbelievable. Mike, let me ask you a question. What's going to happen? What would happen right now if 200,000 or 300,000 white Anglo-Caucasian males were to go to New York and try to arrest George Soros for war crimes against the United States? What would happen?
Well, absolutely nothing. I mean, they'd be stopped. I mean, Soros is in violation of the USA Patriot Act. And but again, he's got so much money and so many lawyers. He's one of the untouchables. And that is unfortunately a reality we have in this country, that there are people who can do whatever they want and not be touched by the law. The Clintons are another group of the untouchables.
So, Mike, what you're telling me is of 300,000 white males that are fed up, that are maybe elder, don't give a dang about the only thing they do have the love for their Constitution, and they want the Soros' property wherever he's at, Connecticut or New York. 300,000 guys went up on that property. You saying the federal government, the military, go and try to take all these white men down? You say
I'm saying that Soros will flee the country if he really thinks there's a danger, and the U.S. government will let him go.
Well, you know what? This guy needs to be arrested at all costs. I'm calling out Trump and everybody, Democrats, Republicans, whoever, independents. You go get this guy Soros, because what he's doing is totally against the law. Just like these governors and these mayors of these sanctuary cities, they need to be arrested. There's got to be a sign sent. No more of this crap. Just like Mike, you've been saying about what's going on with the Russia collusion today. Okay, look at Michael Flynn. Look what Michael Flynn's life has been ruined. But maybe he'll get his life back with a lot of money, like GoFundMe or whatever they're going to do, like that kid Sandman got. Sandman's getting millions of dollars out of what is it, the New York Times or something? Sandman's getting, I think it's $38 million that kid's going to have.
Well, my understanding is the settlement was settled, has a no comment clause in it, so we don't really know. There's a lot of rumors going on.
But you know, Mike, just like what's going on with Weinstein and Epstein and all these Steiners, I mean, schmucks. I think Soros, we should, I think people, hundreds of thousands of white males should say enough is enough. We're putting this excursion down. It's going down. And we're going to take you down, and you're going to be locked up, whatever they're going to do to these guys. And then you have, like I was telling you.
I'll tell you, all we have to do is we go up to Soros's places carrying Black Lives Matter and Antifa banners, and the cops will leave us alone, and we can walk right in and arrest Soros.
Beautiful point. Excellent point, Mike. I love it. That's great. And that's what we should do. That's what actually should happen. And, as far as NASCAR and all these sports teams, I don't care if they ever fold. They should just call it the race car race. Or the Washington football team, the Oakland football team, and Miami football team. No more logos on anybody's team. They're all just one team. The National Felon League. That's what they should call it. That's what I'm thinking. It's ridiculous.
Plain wrap sports teams.
Exactly. And I like to know what's going to actually happen with this case with Smollett. I mean, what is actually you think going to happen with this guy, Mike?
If I were to take a guess, given that this all appears to have been set up from the beginning, he'll be the case will be dismissed on a technicality.
I'm telling you, I agree, Mike. I agree. And supposedly bumbling buffoonery, Biden's going to be picking his running mate either Wednesday or no later than Saturday. And it looks like Kamala Harris is probably going to be his running mate, the same one here in Miami that they did.
Hello? Tom, are you there? Mike, are you there? Okay, I'm good. But we lost Tom in Florida. Okay, so let's go to Terry in California. Hello, Terry. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Mike, I'm in disagreement with Mark in North Carolina. I'm against landing the 82nd Airborne to quell these riots in these cities. We got music coming up.
All right. Well, Terry, stay on the line. Don't hang up. I'm going to bring you back after these words from our sponsors.
are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Homeowners, if your lender has gone out of business or sold your transaction to another lender or servicer, you may be the victim of a wrongful foreclosure, resulting in the loss of your home. If you've already lost your home, are in foreclosure, or even in good standing, you can challenge the mortgage transaction's illegal issue, and your property can be restored to you, and your foreclosure can be stopped or reversed, and the mortgage transaction declared unenforceable. State laws, U.S. title codes, the Uniform Commercial Codes, and U.S. Supreme Court rulings have upheld that defective mortgage documentations can reverse or stop foreclosures and enforce property title claims in favor of the homeowner. We are having successes in stopping the process of foreclosure, the enforcement of the foreclosure judgments, the sale of property, and evictions after the sale. We are not attorneys, and we don't give legal advice. We are a professional team of legal researchers, providing forensic mortgage audits and expert witnesses. We have the knowledge to produce the evidence and enforce laws regarding your legal issues. We've been in business for 12 years without a complaint. Consultations are free, and we provide a free title search to confirm if your mortgage has legal defects. Please call 855-253-3748. 855, keep it today.
Corporate media dominates the American opinion. Finding independent voices that counter this avalanche is becoming increasingly difficult. With the endless corruption running rampant throughout our government, independent voices are needed more than ever to battle the offensive against our freedoms and liberties. As a listener of RBN, no one understands this concept better than you. Now it's up to you to do your part. The time has come for you to take action and begin broadcasting the truth to hundreds or thousands of people every month. Sound impossible? Quite the contrary. With pointed slogans from LibertyStickers.com, you can reach countless sleeping Americans unaware that they live in a real-life wonderland. LibertyStickers.com has a huge inventory of political bumper stickers and messages that reflect the truth about our government, our politicians, and the future of America. With so many in stock, there's one perfect for you. Visit us today at LibertyStickers.com. Again, that's LibertyStickers.com. Do your part. Your voice is important. Let it be heard.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
Extendovite really works. Here are some reviews from Amazon.com. John Hess, 5 out of 5 stars. Awesome. Probably my only review, but at age 40, I was getting bad heartthrob and left arm pain, mainly before bed. I even stopped smoking and drinking sodas for a month, and that didn't work. After one day of taking Extendovite, it was gone and hasn't returned in 3 years. I've ordered Extendovite 13 times, so Amazon just said. Juliet Hordick. I've ordered this product before in liquid form. It is fantastic. My whole family's been on it. To order, call 1-877-928-8822. That's 1-877-928-8822, or visit our website at heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero. You're listening to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Here is your host, Michael Rivero.
And welcome back to our show. We're talking with Terry in California. And Terry, if you could just sort of pick up where you left off.
Yeah, Mike, I'm retired military, but last I heard that it's a violation of federal law, the Posse Comitatus Act, to activate U.S. Army troops to be deployed in the United States against U.S. citizens. And beyond that, this is why I was against the Department of Homeland Security when Bush proposed it. Federal people coming in and people disappearing in vans and all that sort of thing. That's not the American way. I mean, if Oregon wants to get their situation under control, which they should, let Kate activate the Oregon National Guard. That's what it's for. And the more we can keep the law, the better, you know. So that's about all I had, Mike.
All right. Well, thank you very much for that insight. And yeah, this should really be for the states to take care of, but clearly they are not. Now, you need to understand the Marines are exempt from Posse Comitatus. And so far, it looks like what Trump is sending into these cities are not regular U.S. Army troops, but federal agents from various other agencies, which are not covered by Posse Comitatus. But it does open a very, very dangerous doorway. Anyway, we're going to let you go. And I understand Tom from Florida is back on the line. Tom, welcome back to the show. And where were we when you got cut off? You were talking about Jesse Smollett and, why is he not in jail?
Yeah, that's correct, Michael. That's perplexing to me. But, what is also perplexing to me is all these Antifa and these BLM screaming and burning and looting in our cities. And, if they were to go to Venezuela or Cuba for a month, I bet you they'd have a different perspective on this country. And they wouldn't be doing their nincompoop nonsense they're getting away with. But, Mike, back to the last caller was excellent what he said about basically the military is going to go against 300,000 men who want to arrest a guy who's trying to destroy our Constitution and our country and our monuments. No way. I don't believe in that. I believe if 100,000 white males and females were to go up on or Soros' property, or even this slime bag Bill Gates is another slime bag, what he's doing with these vaccines and all this. This thing's a whole hoax, man. It's going to turn out to be a hoax to me. Yeah, there's some kind of virus out there, but like you were saying in your first hour, Michael, we got to worry about now with China and Taiwan getting in the middle of that nonsense. And I totally agree with you. We don't need to get in the middle of that. Let them blow each other up, whatever the hell. But this nonsense about Smollett and all these Black Lives Matter liars, they never have. Look, what do you think those people have in Haiti, Mike? What do you think they have in Africa compared to what these Afro Americans have in this country? I've been to Cuba 5 times. I told you, 99% of the police in Cuba are black. 99%, and they have no food hardly ever at all to eat over there, except black beans and rice or red beans. They're lucky if they get a piece of pork a week or 2 chickens a week. The bread's hard as a rock, so they barely have any flour. And here's these European countries like Spain and Italy sending them food, and they still are starving over there. I don't understand it. I guess the communists are sure eating good, though. But the average Cuban over there is not barely getting by. It's unbelievable. And the same thing with Venezuela. And, here in Florida, we have all these Puerto Ricans coming down from New York. They're going to all vote Democrat. We got the ones from the island coming in here voting Democrat. It's ridiculous. I mean, Trump can't do enough for these people. I told you a year ago, if he gave them $1 million in a briefcase, they would still vote against them.
Yep.
And they're complaining every day. Trump this, Trump that. It's nonsense, man. And you got and don't kid yourself, Mike. You got a lot of I was listening to a show last night. It's called the Boogaloo, some black organizations funded by. He was talking about the NAACP was actually founded by Jews. I mean, it's unbelievable. And they're manipulating this whole thing. Israel would not allow their statues to get torn down in Israel by a bunch of Arabs, would they?
No, they wouldn't.
They sure wouldn't allow that. They wouldn't allow Tel Aviv or any of these cities in Israel to be burned up and looted. No way. They wouldn't be using rubber bullets. They'd be using real live ammo over there. So who's kidding who? And like I say, Mike, we've got to stop all this insanity. And it's got to be put. These are people like rabid dogs. Mike? What do you do with a rabid dog?
You shoot them.
That's it. And that's what we got going on. This is like a rabid dog out of control. And it's crazy what's happening. But when I see all this, the media, I'm still, for the life of me, Mike, I don't know how all these media networks are so liberalized. The white Anglos are the majority in this country. Is all the whites so brainwashed that they're so liberalized? They don't care about their monuments, their history, their Constitution. It's unbelievable to me. And I tell you, Mike, they're going to steal this election, like you've been saying, through the mail vote. You watch this mail-in vote crap. Trump's going to lose because of this. He can't do his rallies. He can't get the. I mean, they're gonna say, and even though Trump's got probably more voters to win this election, well, he couldn't hold his rally, so he lost. With the mail-in ballot swung it for the Democrats. They're gonna rig this just like they did this coronavirus. Remember, Mike, right before the coronavirus came out, and I want to let everybody in your audience know this. They would have a big sensationalized story about what happened to Molly Tibbetts in Iowa.
Yes.
Illegal alien. And he was trying to scream that the Mexican, he was going to go back to Mexico after he stabbed her 15 times. And then you had the same time Jesse Smollett case was going to be played out on TV. You don't hear nothing about Smollett. You don't hear nothing about Molly Tibbetts. You didn't hear nothing about Kate Steinle. In the meantime, you got thousands of Americans murdered by illegal aliens. Trump has not arrested no mayors, no governors. The Democrat, Pig Pelosi definitely should be in jail. How is this woman so filthy rich? What did that woman ever do to lift her finger to do anything, to build anything? Or that Mad Maxine Waters kept going, Beach 45, Beach 45. All we hear is Beach 45. Okay, so I don't understand it, Mike. It's crazy what these people are getting away with. The murder,
Yes.
the lies, the conniving, the stealing. It's just unbelievable. It's unreal. It's just unbelievable, Mike. So I'll let it go at that, but I'll call you tomorrow. But and one more thing, Mike. As far as the vice president, you can bet whoever it is, Biden's only going to do one term, and they're not even talking about this yet. Biden will probably do 2 years, and that black woman, whoever he picks, will be the president in 2 years. Remember, I told you that.
Well, that's going to be better than having Hillary Clinton up there.
More likely, yes, but I don't know about that, Mike, because you're going to have then the blacks are going to go off the chain. Remember, they're only 13% of the population. They act like they're the
Whoa,
top.
whoa. Be careful of statements like off the chain, okay?
I just said they're 13% of the population, and they're not, and they think they're 63% of the population. That's what I said.
Yes.
I just say that. I said the black community in the United States is 13% of the population, but they think they're at 63 or 53%, and they're not. That's all I said, Mike.
Okay.
That's what I was saying. I was making
My
the
mistake.
fact
My mistake. I misheard you.
you're the majority. So I didn't say nothing derogatory. Okay, so now I'll leave it at that.
All right. Well, thanks a lot for the phone. Thanks a lot for the phone call. We're going to let you go and switch over to Miles in Maine. Hello, Miles. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Michael, you are too funny. You were even too quick for Tom on that one, but I got it. It was funny.
Okay.
And Tom, of course, has another, good, passionate call with a lot of points, good points. But my one point I would disagree with Tom, and it is terrible about this mail-in voting. But here's the one thing I think that we got to look forward to is these Bernie bros and Bernie boys or whatever they are. They're not forgetting this, and they're not going to pull the lever for Biden, I don't think. And Trump might get a bigger bounce from them than people expect.
Well, I'm hearing that the Hispanic community is not very thrilled with Biden either. So when it comes down to an election of either or, you may see the Hispanics, even though Trump is building the border wall, he may get a little more boost from the Hispanic community than previously expected. The legal Hispanic citizens don't like the illegal immigration problem either, because they're afraid of being equated the same. That anybody sees Hispanic, oh, they're probably illegal, and that's a bitter pill for the legal citizens to take. The ones who came through immigration and naturalization, who did the memorization, learned the Pledge of Allegiance, took the oath, and became a citizen the legal, correct way.
I agree, and that's very true, Michael. I totally agree with that. On the other point, again, we have this caller in between, Tom, called in, and he's talking about posse comitatus. And here's another guy that doesn't understand the Constitution. We're not talking posse comitatus is going into somebody's house and using the military to extract them. The Constitution actually says that an insurrection, that it's the government's duty to maintain public safety.
Okay.
And this isn't a matter of violating individual rights. This is a matter of keeping the public safe from mass lawlessness.
Yes.
And these people don't understand, and that's the trouble we got. A lot of these people don't understand the Constitution, or only understand the portion that they like, whether it be the First Amendment, Fourth Amendment, Second Amendment, and I'm sure you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And that's a big problem we got too. You got to take the whole package. You don't just pick out the parts you like and throw it away. And that's what the Supreme Court apparently does. And then I have one question, Michael. This isn't on any of these topics. This is like a technical question, but I know you're very good with the computers and high tech. And I'm just going to give you an example. Like on my phone, if I want to call somebody or something's going on, every time I gotta swipe it and change the screen to get to whatever app it is I want to use, and there's a commercial or there's some type of advertisement. I mean, if I want to call police, I got to get this thing out of my way before I can, let someone proceed with breaking down my door or attacking me or whatever, and I don't want to. I just want to use my phone. Is there
Yes.
any that you know of that I can rescue my phone for my own personal usage again?
Okay. Are you iPhone or Android?
Android.
Okay. Well, as a general rule for both platforms,
What's the preference that you think would be better in terms of that application of being able to pull back control with your phone?
well, I don't know that there's a way to pull back control other than to be very careful about downloading apps that claim to be free, because those are the vectors through which advertising comes in.
So is there anything that you know of that maybe you can scan and get rid of those programs or remove them from your phone so that you can?
I'm not an Android expert, and I suggest that you find one. I know that for the iPhone, you know, you're given the option of having an ad-free experience by sending in a little bit of money, and for me, it's always been worth it. You know, because they're usually talking about, you know, between $2 and $5. You know, and you get the ad-free version of the app. But you have to be very careful about downloading anything that's free, because the way they make their money is to shove advertising at you, at least for their own extended products. And it's an annoyance. And I agree with you. I bought and paid for that phone, you know, and I bought and paid for the apps. You know, why is somebody else making money off of that?
So in terms of the two operating systems, would you say that the Apple would be better in that aspect of being able to stop this type of ad takeover of your personal device?
Well, Apple is a lot more careful about what they allow into their app store, and they've only been burned a few times, whereas for Android, it's kind of an open, you know, Wild West environment out there. Claire and I just upgraded our phones recently when my phone failed. And we're not deluged with advertising. We are deluged with telemarketer calls. And as a matter of fact, I was looking at a new app that is promising to block telemarketer calls. And after I'm done testing it out, I'll let you know how that works. But it is a problem. And I think who's your carrier for your cell phone?
Verizon.
Okay. See, we're with AT&T. Yeah, you're going to have to talk to an Android expert.
Yeah, and see, I did. The only reason I went to Android is I had Apple at one point, and then they stopped me. They stopped me from updating my system and told me no, I had to have a whole new system. And I was comfortable and enjoyed the previous system, and they were going to bound and determined to make me purchase this new system, and I just said no way.
Well, yeah, that's the business model. It's not just Apple that's doing that. Microsoft does that. The computer manufacturers do that. You know, their business model is you buy a computer and you use it for 5 years, and then you buy a whole new computer with a whole new operating system. And they're moving to a model where all of your applications are on a subscription basis, where you're paying so much per month to use them, which I don't like.
Yeah.
I like the perpetual licenses. And I get to nurse my hardware and operating system along until it really does give up the ghost. But of course, to the computer manufacturers, they think I'm somehow cheating them by not throwing everything away every 5 years and buying brand new. In a healthy economy, you can get away with that, but our economy isn't that healthy anymore. And it's one of the reasons why people are moving to Linux and open source, is because
I like Linux. I do like Linux.
I do too.
You know, that I got to say, the Apple is the only one who actually gives me that 5 years before they totally collapse. But I think I might take your advice, and I might head on back to Apple and just bite the bullet, so to speak, and go ahead and put up with it. But Michael, thanks for your time and your expertise, and have a great show.
Well, I'm sorry I don't have expertise in the Androids. We made a brief foray into the Androids, and it frankly came across as just like Apple, only different enough to avoid a lawsuit. And we had a bad experience with a tablet. We had a bad experience with a phone. And so we're back safely in the arms of iPhone, iPad, iWatch, the rest of it. All right. We're coming up. We're going to start with Don in Arizona. Don, I'm going to have to take you through the commercial break. And what's on your mind? Connie, there?
Hello, yes. I agree with that guy in California. They should use the National Guard, Oregon National Guard. That's
Yes.
what it's for. I was in the National Guard a long time. You get some training in riot control every once in a while. And the governor can, the thing is, the governor, the mayor, they don't want to do anything. They seem to be very happy with everything just being totally destroyed, except for when they got to that one mayor's house in Seattle, and she got her riled up when they're gonna burn down her house. Then she kind of fought back a little bit. But these guys, these Homeland Security, and I agree with them that should never have been started. That was George W. Bush, supposedly Republican small government. No, he started PSA. He started Homeland Security. That's the worst president there ever was. People want to complain about a Republican president, complain about him. He's a lot worse than Trump. But yeah, they could. I don't understand. You'd think these governors and mayors would be getting some pressure from the people that are getting, that live there, that own houses and stuff, that aren't homeless, that live there in Portland, Seattle, and I don't understand how that works. There's just nobody cares. Everybody's happy that the whole place is burning down. And what about these people that are getting their houses torn up and their
businesses? They put their entire lives into setting up a business and running it, and it's all being part. What we need to look at? What we need to look at here is the Fifth Amendment, not the part about self-incrimination, but the part at the bottom where it says that the government cannot take your property for public use without just compensation. Well, it appears to me that if, in fact, the government is allowing these riots to move forward, then they're sacrificing these businesses and homes for whatever political gain they can get. That represents a confiscation of private property without just compensation.
These Homeland Security people there, what they're trying, I think it looks like what their mission is just to guard the federal assets there, the courthouses and.
I think that's what their mission is supposed to be. Yes, but it's evolved.
They can't win. They can't win because there's riots all over the city, and they're there, and they're gonna try to just defend their little section of the whole city where everything else is getting burned down. So I don't know what the really, in a way, Trump had to send them there to try to protect the courthouses. That's all they're doing. They're not going to stop the riot stuff. So
no, they definitely are not. But
yeah.
The Democrats are out there saying, Trump is invading. He's sending in the troops, and
everybody wants to.
I almost feel sorry for the guy. There isn't anything he can do that's going to be seen as, good in the eyes of the media and the liberals.
As far as 9/11, Christopher Bolin is another guy that basically is on the same sheet of music as as Ryan Dawson. He wrote two or three books about it. I think one of them, the books says who did 9/11 or something like that. Well, he just lays it all out. And, it's rough. Ryan Dawson's in trouble because he's not the only one. Red Ice got kicked off of YouTube, and now they won't even let their banks won't even accept payments from people that want to donate it to them. They actually got to their banks, not just PayPal, but the banks themselves. They're going to have to try to look for some Asian bank that will. I shouldn't be laughing about it, but that's how ridiculous it is. What is a bank for? And like they say, Red Ice is entertaining that.
The government has been using the banks for policy, foreign policy and domestic policy for decades now, especially in South America. So I'm not at all surprised that they're doing it again. It's all plugged in together to keep us under control. And, I hope Ryan is able to come back and, recover from his few missteps and get back out there because we do need his voice.
Definitely a smart guy.
Say again?
Red Ice is they're accused that, hey, I recommend you can get them on BitChute. they're accused of hate speech. There's nothing farther from the truth. They're really nice people. The guy and his wife, and they have a lot of videos they show, and but they're not. There's nothing hateful about anything they do there. They're really big on YouTube, and that was it.
All right. Well, listen, we're really short on time. I got 2 more calls I got to get through here. So we're going to let you go. Thank you very much. And we're going to go to Mark in New York. Mark, thank you for waiting so patiently. What's on your mind?
Yeah, hey, Mike. Good to hear you. You're always sounding great, and the down days are far and few in between, so it's just good to hear. You sound better all the time and stuff. And but anyway, I wanted to call in, see if I could get to some of the things I saw on the Sunday news stuff. I TiVo it, and I try to watch a little bit of it, and it was just to listen to Jake Tapper. I usually watch the first 20 minutes to see what the issues are. And he had this admiral on who was a deputy to the health and stuff. I think his name is Gerard, and he was just, I would say it was gaslighting and disrespect. He would say the same questions all over and over again, just ignoring some decent answers that the admiral was giving him about mainly the response for testing, that it's a quarter right there, 15 minutes. The next quarter was 24 hours, and then the other half is 4 to 7 days. And Jake's like, well, everyone says it's not good enough. It's just not good enough. And then they went into like, all right, what are we going to do with the tracing? And Jake was pushing tracing, which is I think it's very a little concerning, because it's almost like the Patriot Act. They bring in all this stuff, you can't take it back. You bring in tracing, they get that in there, and hiring people and creating this erosion of personal liberty. So I thought that was weird. But I noticed how he was, Jake Tapper was just ramping up and then saying, you come in here and saying it's all perfect. And I just thought he was like really rude, and he was pushing an agenda, and it was really clear. And when you could stop it and think about what they're doing, because they're talking over each other, you can see how he actually intensified his questions and accused them of skirting the issues, which I just didn't see that. And then on King's show, he had a doctor, Wen, on a Chinese doctor, that was saying that's the national disgrace, the response, and she just it really wasn't really giving, her points were not that strong. And she just kept saying national disgrace. And I looked her up, and I'm seeing that she's like a Communist Party member. It's right on Wiki. She was the Planned Parenthood president. She came over here from China, and after a few years, her family got a political asylum, but now she's a Communist Party member. I just thought that was ironic. But anyway, so those were the 2 things that I noticed. There was a lot of other things that I see going on with like Cuomo. I'm sick of Cuomo. Hearing him, it's funny how he says Trump is not a king.
Mark, I got to let you go.
That's fine.
There's the music here. Time for me to say aloha and get on out of here. And we got thunderstorms coming in, so I got to get ready for those. Stay tuned for John Stedmiller. And I know he has an interesting guest today whose name eludes me at the moment. Please spread the word of RBN. Please spread the word of whatreallyhappened.com. Please donate. We need to buy new hardware. That's just an ugly reality. And we'll be back tomorrow. Aloha, America.